Hello there people, Vestin here. You might be wondering what the hell is going on here, why is there no game sound? Why are my lips not synchronized with my voice? Well, that is all because of one very simple but very tragic and disappointing reason. Namely, none of the audio got recorded during this particular episode. So I'm doing this commentary in post, in its entirety. Of course, after briefly making sure everything was fine, which it wasn't past Vestin, you did not make sure well enough, I head on over to mission mode to continue the campaign with mission number 17, ironically. A favorite of mine as far as numbers are concerned. Payback. Well, we wanted to piss off the cowboy, and it worked. A full team of sicarios have attacked Laredo Junction with one goal: extermination. Stay focused, get your team out alive. Only a single primary objective: we are supposed to survive the ambush. We are supposed to complete this within 15 rounds with no team casualties using 3 or fewer units. I am of course an ambitious man, not one to turn down a challenge, so obviously I'm going to play with 3 units. Exactly as many as I am allowed, but not more. I don't want to just complete the mission, I want to complete it with all the bonus objectives. I've decided to go with all 3 of my gunmen. I believe there's an achievement for completing a mission with 3 gunmen, and I've decided to take this opportunity to get 2 things done. Complete the bonus objective on one hand, and on the other hand get that achievement. Not necessarily the best of choices, because it imposes external constraints on my playthrough unnecessarily. However, as you shall see, I will manage. I'm good enough at the game by this point, there is no reason to doubt my skills. First and foremost, I need to eliminate 8 of the ambushers. We're over here, hunkered down in a building. And I plan the most egregiously, unnecessarily complicated task I ever performed. Bounce the sensor off the windowsill, then off a barrel over there, over the sandbags, and right next to the enemy shotgunner. Round the corner. Once again, extremely elaborate, extremely fancy, utterly unnecessary most likely. However, it does give that bit of extra range to my sensor, so I don't particularly mind it. Besides, the flashiness in itself is going to be worth it. A situation, as you have probably noticed, in general, isn't really conducive to me staying inside this building. There are 2 enemy shotgunners and a single bomber. If the shotgunners break into my building, metaphorically, of course, because they cannot actually break barriers. If they do get in, they have bonus initiative, because they are short-ranged by their very nature. So, aside from really perfect aiming, standing still and waiting for them, which could potentially outweigh this, they will gain the upper hand and kill my men. That's unacceptable. And of course, if it's not the shotgunners, then it's going to be the bomber lobbing a single grenade in and utterly obliterating my entire force huddled in a corner somewhere. Therefore, that sort of solution is completely unacceptable. I can't allow that to happen. I can't just get blown up by a single stray grenade. I also cannot allow myself to get gunned down by a single trigger-happy shotgunner. I need to get out there and obliterate the enemy forces. For now, predictably enough, I'm trying to account for every single move the shotgunner over there could possibly make. For instance, if I lob out that sensor, can I get gunned down? Can Zeke get gunned down while tossing the sensor? Assuming the shotgunner sprints as far as he possibly can, and then as soon as he can try to acquire Zeke, does acquire Zeke. Can that work out in his favor? At all. Even if we were to say stop at that particular point, if we were not to stop, if we were to sprint a little bit longer to close the distance, or perhaps if we were to stop immediately in order to not be moving and therefore have an easy time aiming. I need to account for those things, but as far as I can tell, since my gunmen are ultimately medium range, they win in that encounter. All of them do. In particular Zeke, who's going to be looking out that goddamn window at that particular shotgunner, should he come. Therefore, I can now shift my focus from Zeke, tossing out the sensor, onto the remaining 2, onto Denton and Bodark. Between the two of them, they have another window, not counting the windows overlooking the courtyard alongside the door leading out there. I am trying to make judicious use of the tools at my disposal, and to that end, I ought to toss out a flashbang to at least try and blind someone who might rush in my direction. It could be the bomber, it could also be the shotgunner. I would love to be able to bounce that flashbang off of more objects, but sadly, that does not appear to be feasible. To sum up, the orders are as follows. Zeke is to toss out the sensor, Denton is to toss out the flashbang, Bodark is to overlook the window over there. Let's commit the orders and see what ends up happening. New results are ready, the tension, the excitement. The sensor turned out to be completely superfluous as the shotgunner zips past 2 bullets hitting him, leaving him with a single hit point. The other shotgunner got disarmed and then gunned down by Bodark. The bomber lobbed out a grenade which did absolutely nothing. He remains alive. It is time to plan out the second turn. As you can see, reinforcements are inbound, so not only do I have to deal with the 2 enemies that are still alive, I also have to handle 3 additional ones that will be spawning in the upper left corner of the map, from this perspective. In order to expedite my triumph, I enjoin my forces to vacate the temporary shelter and actively seek out remaining foes. The sprint command is useful in this endeavor, as it presents them with the opportunity to make as much progress along the way as is possible at the cost of making them unable to respond to enemy fire. Despite being left alive with a single hit point to spur, the shotgunner is still fully functional, runs at full speed and kills just as well as he would having all the hit points at his disposal. Thus, I must be cautious. The bomber could lob out an explosive at any point, obliterating my team as they desperately try to leave this building. Then of course there are the 3 reinforcements. As they spawn, I don't want my team to be sitting ducks. I don't want them to be out in the open, unnecessarily exposed to enemy fire immediately. Even though I have immediately recapitulated the situation, I do believe that bears mentioning. Hence, as you can see, the plan is to have Zeke sprint out of the building, assisted by Bodark. They both aim to the right, so to speak, and try to take care of the shotgunner should he be there. If he's not there, then no loss, but if he is there, then Bodark will disarm him, and in the meantime Zeke ought to have enough time to be able to aim and fire, taking care of that last hit point. If the shotgun were at full health, that would have been a much more risky proposition, but since he's left with a single one, gunning him down ought to be easy. Denton is to sprint to the left and pursue the bomber, hopefully not dying in the process. Let's see the results. Denton heads to the left, gets right into the bomb's range and dies, ruining my run immediately. I've considered the possibility. I figured the bomber would not bomb himself. I expected him to lob it fairly far away, but I did not account for that particular position, and frankly I probably shouldn't have ran head on in the bomber's direction. I should have ran around. It is difficult to predict where they are going to lob their explosives. With that being said, that was the most likely position. It was a boneheaded move on my part, and I regret ever making it. What possessed me, I cannot say. But I'll be more careful this time and hopefully shall succeed. I'm carefully planning my series of initial bounces with the sensor. This one's just hilarious as it goes out the window, bounces off the barrel, then goes into the building and lands safely nestled on top of the boxes. It does reveal territory all around that building, and therefore might be fairly useful considering the fact that last time that shotgunner went in, and the position right outside the window can be seen by the gunman directly, so it doesn't need to be sensed. Might as well place it there, look out the window, try to take care of the shotgunner immediately if possible, and if not, then detect his exact movement inside and be prepared for any actions he might take. Of course, I can only see so far. I can see all the movement he makes using the sensor, but the 5 seconds that follow, the 5 seconds of the execution of my plan, are ultimately up to him. I cannot predict the moves he makes before he makes them. That's not how the sensor works. It's not an oracle. I've also adjusted my plan slightly as far as Bodalk and Denton are concerned. Bodalk will monitor enemy activity out the left side window, while Denton will get out immediately and try to catch the bomber. If Denton dies, I'll just restart. The shotgunner to the right gets shot twice, just like last time. The shotgunner to the left gets disarmed and then killed by Bodalk. However, the difference is Denton is much closer to the bomber than previously. He's already outside, he's ready, he's spotted the explosion, and now could charge head on. But I'm not sure that's the best use of my manpower at this particular point. I will try to finish off the shotgunner I've heavily injured. So I will sprint out with Bodalk and then try to disarm the shotgunner, holding on sight. If I want to accomplish this, I also have to move Zeke. He will not be able to reach the shotgunner from this window, in all likelihood. He could potentially spot him, but odds are that's only going to happen temporarily. It is possible that he just spots him outside this window and gets that single shot in. And that's what I plan for, apparently. I decide to use the free fire command so that as long as he crosses that particular line, he dies. However, as you can see, that's very much so not a given. Sorry for the inconsistency in the commentary. That's to a certain extent. That's the difference, that's the disadvantage I'm at, commentating 3 years after the fact rather than commentating live. If I were commentating live, I could give you the reasons for my actions. I could actually justify why I am doing what I am doing. At this particular point, I can only try to describe to you what I'm doing and try to hypothesize as to what I originally had in mind. This goes over particularly poorly if what I do makes very little sense to me presently. And of course, criticizing people after the fact, so simple considering all the hindsight, and considering how much I have played between then and now. Considering all the experience I have accrued over time, it's much easier to criticize poor moves from today's perspective. All of that aside, I desperately try to position Denton properly, wiggle him around to the best of my ability, trying to predict the most likely spot on which the enemy grenade can possibly detonate. It is a very delicate matter. There is a maximum range beyond which the bomber cannot lob his grenade. However, there are plenty of directions in which he can lob it. There are plenty of possibilities to consider. And I am trying my damnedest not to get killed along the way, but also to have the best odds of actually finding that bomber and eliminating him as soon as possible. I positioned Denton behind the pillar rather than in front of it because, according to my calculations, the odds of the bomber actually lobbing the grenade so far ahead so as to reach beyond the pillar are negligible, whereas the odds of him reaching before it are pretty substantial. I do find him, and that's what I was also trying to do. I do find him, I try to acquire him and eliminate him, but alas, he runs away just in time. The shotgunner, unfortunately, is still alive, but I managed to disarm him with Bodalk, and I am now ready to dispose of him. All of that in bulk may sound like good news, but let us not forget, 3 additional enemies have spawned onto the map. There's the shotgunner in the shed, the bomber back there, and the other shotgunner all the way at the back of the map. All things considered, what I am trying to accomplish right now, disposing of this bomber that has pestered me since the start of this game, is not as important as getting rid of that heavily injured shotgunner that's on the other side of the map. If for no other reason than purely because I want to be safe from one side. All the other enemies, 4 of them, are on one side of the map, whereas that shotgunner is essentially behind me. As soon as I get rid of him, as soon as I dispose of him, I will only have to worry about this side of the map. At that point I can take all 3 of my gunmen and position them in some reasonable formation, then try to circle around my opponents, take them out one by one, toss out the sensor, do all sorts of things, knowing that they would have to cross my line of sight, almost certainly and inevitably, in order to get behind me, in order to try to flank me. As long as I have the general idea of where they are, and I know that they are on one particular side, I can manage them. I can manage dealing with them fairly goddamn well. Thankfully, Bodak should be able to handle matters quite quickly. Another thing for you to consider, the enemy forces are comprised entirely of shotgunners and bombers. That has profound implications. Shotgunners have extremely short range. Bombers aim their bombs manually and ultimately also have a fairly short range and a long firing time. There are no gunmen out there and certainly no snipers, which in the end means that I don't have to worry about being out in the open and getting gunned down or even injured to any extent. I can be out in the open. Range works in my favor because I have my beloved gunmen. I can do all these things I otherwise would not be able to do. I can prance around in the middle of the map and I am going to be safe. For now I try to position the flashbang toss properly and then back off with Denton. I am not particularly interested in charging the bomber to die in a gory explosion yet again. I will back off, I will make use of the range. That's the advantage I have. Of course, I still have to go through all the permutations of possible events to investigate whether my men will be threatened by the shotgunners and the bombers coming from this side. More importantly, I probably ought to figure out how that shotgunner with a single hit point can affect me. As long as I can get rid of him, as I have already mentioned, I will be safe from one entire side of the map. At that point, I can just position my forces in the middle, right next to the fountain, and take out the remaining enemies at my leisure. Of course, there are limits to this. I ought to be able to complete the mission in 15 rounds or fewer. Thus, I probably shouldn't linger unnecessarily. I shouldn't position them in ways that would completely prevent me from expediently dealing with the situation. However, I don't think the enemies are going to cower in corners. I think they will come to get me sooner rather than later, and thus positioning myself properly isn't the worst of ideas. Right now, once again, I'm trying to figure out the best way to make use of my flashbang, my sensor, and then my disarming shot with Bodak. What's that, Past Vestin? The enemy shotgunner fell down the well? It's like, I can't hear you. I have no clue why you're gesticulating over there. It's like, no clue what you're trying to say. I was probably desperately trying to convey the idea that I'm trying to figure out what the enemy shotgunner will do, and then try to act accordingly with Denton, toss out that flashbang to try and blind him as he runs out or walks out, at the same time also trying to make an effort to deal potentially with the bombers coming. No, there's no way the bomber will reach me. That bomber far away in the top right corner will reach me in time. I also want to avoid destroying my sensor with the flashbang, which I believe does happen. If the flashbang explodes, I think it takes out the sensor. I'm not sure at this point though. It's been a few years. I guess we do get a bit of a chance to find out though, because I do toss out the sensor and then the flashbang. Presumably the explosion radius of the flashbang within which it actually legitimately takes out the sensor is extremely small, so it's an edge case. If you toss them onto the same spot, bad things may happen, but otherwise they're gonna be fine. Since over here I will clearly be tossing out sensor first, flashbang second. This is essentially the plan, and I probably was going over how I need to take care of this one guy and then everyone else will be on the other side. Let's see what happens. Can I actually snipe down that single guy with a single hit point? Come on. Yes, one shot from Bodak, the guy's down, the sensor goes out, the shotgunner gets blinded by the flashbang. The bomber tosses out a bomb. Thank goodness it doesn't hurt anyone. One more elimination! The blinded shotgunner gets gunned down by the combined forces of Denton and Bodak. And the other shotgunner shows his ugly mug. He's behind the corner, we can barely not see him, but the sensor sure does detect him. Having accurate, recent information on him, I should be easily capable of dealing with him. At this particular point, I'm only facing enemies from a single side. There's 2 bombers and a single shotgunner. Thus, handling them ought to be trivial. I just need to keep my distance and gun them down, essentially with impunity. The sensor is out there. I don't necessarily need to toss out another one, but I may as well if I get the opportunity, unless I want to use Zeke to cause some mayhem instead. For whatever reason, I decided I might want to send Zeke forward, charging ahead. That might not be the best of ideas, considering the enemy bomber loves saturating that particular place with explosives. Of course, I want to send the other gunman to handle the shotgunner threat over there behind that corner. They ought to be stopped the moment they spot him, so that they can take aim and then gun him down. Since there's Bodalk alongside Denton, the shotgunner is going to get disarmed, so even if he starts aiming from that huge distance, he will not get those shots off no matter what, I think. He's just outgunned though. I do have to take some unfortunate scenarios into account, however. For instance, that bomber over there, what if he charges in, positions himself right by the window, tosses out a huge explosive as far as he possibly can? Can he eliminate any of my folks? Is this going to be a threat? It's mostly about timing, not necessarily the place. If it just lands there, immobile, that means I should be fairly safe. I should have the time to be able to evade that explosive before it goes off. As I've mentioned, there are no reinforcements on the way. There are no additional threats. There's just these 3 guys. I'm supposed to eliminate 8 targets in total. I've already eliminated 3 of them, which means that there will be additional enemies spawning. This cannot be it. That's presumably why I was so confused. Where are my enemies? I have a time limit here. I need to take care of this within 15 rounds. So if the enemies are not there yet, thankfully that's not the worst situation in the world. That's really not that much of a problem to have. Oh, I don't have all the enemies trying to kill me at the same time. No, I am going to be absolutely fine with that. Another thing to note is that that bomber that starts off in the top right corner, I can see him at the start. I have accurate information on him, on his position, so he cannot possibly be closer than I expect him to be. This is the worst case scenario. The bomber in the top right corner doesn't have enough time to actually threaten me. Here are the new results. But yes, charging straight ahead was a risky move. I took my chances with Zeke and I'm not sure I can really get behind that. We lost track of the other bomber. However, Zeke took aim at the shotgunner, eliminating him entirely. The bomb also exploded in the middle. We have fairly accurate information on that bomber, the one that tossed it out, and perfectly accurate information on the other one. He's just standing there in the corner, staring at a wall, which is a whole other league of patheticness. Of course, since the explosive got lobbed out so recently, I can just barge into that room with Zeke and take care of the bomber with impunity. Can just charge in there, mow him down. There's nothing to be afraid of, because even if the bomber unleashes his explosive at the first available opportunity, that opportunity will not be soon enough. Or will it? Am I accounting for time here properly? Is there really not enough time for him to lob that out? Bombers, as far as I remember, can fire about once every round. Not the way you'd think in a turn-based game. It's impossible for them to do it at the end of one round and at the beginning of another. There's about a round's distance between one shot and another, which means that if he lobbed out an explosive at the tail end of the previous round, the quickest he will have one available if he decides to unleash it immediately, or for that matter if he does things in the meantime as it's on cooldown, the quickest he can do that is at the tail end of this one. It might not really be the very, very end of it, but it's fairly close to the end. That explosion wasn't really anywhere near the beginning or the middle of the last round. As such, I'm not taking that much of a risk charging in with Zeke. Of course, another thing to be mindful of, and this is once again horrible and pathetic on the side of the AI, but something that needs to be taken into account, is that the bomber could potentially unleash that explosive as soon as he can and unleash it essentially on himself, blowing himself up, but potentially killing one of my gunmen alongside with himself. I really want to avoid that. If at all possible, it has to be possible, and I do want to avoid that. However, I am going to take my chances, because rushing down and gunning down the bombers is probably the best shot I have here. I could try to dance around and try to dodge more and more of the grenades, but I'm just not going to do that. I'm charging in there with all of my bombers. I've spotted one of the bombers charging in. He's sprinting, as they are wont to do. They cannot really stop and bomb, so it's pretty much worthless for them to have all these hold on sight commands most of the time. The bombs go out where my team was, not where my team is, and one of the bombers gets mercilessly gunned down. Once again, the AI plans its turn ahead of time, as do I. So it was reasonable for me to assume that the AI would lob those bombs out there, onto the previous position of my team, not onto itself. Yes, there was a chance, there was a risk. It is a move you can make, but I used heuristic, so to speak. I made the reasonable prediction of them not committing suicide, and it paid off. As much as the AI loves to commit suicide, not necessarily with the bombers. One bomber down. The next one will be gunned down shortly because he's very near to my team. 2 reinforcements on the way. I'll have to be prepared for them. The 5 people I've already killed, plus the one on his way out, plus the 2 reinforcements incoming, make 8 in total. As soon as I dispose of the reinforcements spawning after next turn, I will have completed the mission objective, the main objective of eliminating my ambushers. All 8 of them. If I want to do these things as quickly as humanly possible, I probably shouldn't send all 3 of my gunmen after that lone bomber. Instead, I probably ought to send 1, at most 2, and the rest ought to pursue these newly incoming forces. But is charging head-on into them the way to go? How do I know they won't turn out to be, say, snipers or gunmen? I might as well position my forces inside buildings, behind some modest amount of cover, and have them at the ready to gun down whatever spawns. Thus, I figure I might send Zeke to the right, Bodark to that shed to the left, and then turn after the bomber that has decided to evacuate the premises and flee to a safe spot. He's not going to find one truly safe, is he? I've committed my orders. Reinforcements, of course, won't actually be spawning this turn, but rather as soon as it ends. It has. Denton has not found the bomber and has instead turned back. And my reinforcements are there. 2 more shotgunners. They ought to be fairly simple to take care of. One of them just might get immediately gunned down by Bodark. I'm not sure of this. He might potentially be able to flee behind cover and break line of sight quickly enough, but there's no guarantee of that. I will, however, appreciate the chance to eliminate him immediately, of course, but I won't be terribly heartbroken if I fail to do that. I can always find him, pursue him, and ultimately eliminate him. I'm more worried about the bomber here. He is the one who can make things extremely difficult for me. Extremely uncomfortable. After all, he's had a decent bit of time to move, to reposition himself. I'm not quite sure where he is hiding exactly. And I'm not sure how far he is down the line of trying to lob a grenade. He might just be ready to toss one out into pretty much any position out there around Denton, or he might just be moving behind some more cover in order to try and do that a tad later on. I do not know. I have to be prepared for any and every eventuality. I wouldn't want to lose this late in the game, on round 7. I have to plan these things meticulously, although of course I also have to take certain risks. Once again, I'll make the assumption that the bomber is over there and is not hell-bent on blowing himself up. Let's see what happens. Denton runs over there, finds the bomber, acquires him, and guns him down. One of the shotgunners has already been shot down by Bodark. So the only one that remains is the one that spawned in, from this perspective, the top right corner. He could not get spotted by Zeke, for obvious reasons, but he's the last man standing from the enemy team. All I need to do is locate him, gun him down with the 3 gunmen I have, and the mission shall be over. I have about 7 rounds to play Ring Around the Rosie with that guy. I don't know exactly where he is, since he had an entire round to reposition, and at no point did I catch sight of him. However, he couldn't have gotten far. Even on full sprint, I know he's somewhere out there in that corner. He couldn't have possibly snuck behind me. I need to exercise extreme caution. Yes, it might have been somewhat risky to try and pursue that bomber and gun him down so aggressively instead of trying to maintain my distance, spot him from further away and then gun him down. However, at this point it would be extremely foolish of me to make any unnecessary move, to charge anywhere head on, to do anything less than maintain perfect safety available to me. I need to toss out the sensor over there and say, have Zeke back off on look command, so that once he spots that shotgunner, he's going to gun him down immediately with, well, no remorse. There's also the possibility of him not getting gunned down, at which point he ought to be detected by the sensor. That's the intention, but from what I can see here, that's just not going to work. Look at the sensor's location. True, you can shoot it out there, and once you do so, it will spot the area it's tossed into and its vicinity, but there's almost no space that the shotgunner could possibly hide in. Well, he would be detected by a sensor and would not be seen by Zeke. Yes, there's this tiny bit of an area over there. If he were to hide behind the shed on one side, well, bottom right, top left, are these 2 tiny spots, 2 tiny blind spots. But the odds of that guy making such a decision are so minuscule, so as not to be worthy of consideration, I guess. I'm trying to figure out where he could have gotten in the last round. He could start from that position for all I know. Could be all the way over there. If that is the case, and he just marches on as Zeke leaves the premises, then in all likelihood Zeke will get gunned down, except for the fact that Bodark can disarm that shotgunner first, buying Zeke precious time necessary in order to acquire him and dispose of him. So I have to use my gunmen together. Let's not forget, I also have Denton at my disposal. I absolutely can lob out a flashbang, blind that guy if I identify correctly or guess correctly where he might be at that particular point in time. There are many tools at my disposal, as you know. You have seen all of them. I just have to use them properly, carefully, patiently, in conjunction with one another. For some reason, I'm reviewing the previous round, trying to figure things out. I'm not sure why. Perhaps I missed the other shotgunner dying. These things happened at roughly the same time. The bomber died, or that shotgunner died to Bodark's shot after getting disarmed, after running around a tiny bit around the pillar, but getting reacquired ultimately. worst case scenario, that shotgunner is there. He will start acquiring the seemingly helpless Zeke. If that happens, if that truly actually happens, then he will get disarmed by Bodalk, and Zeke will gun him down before Denton even gets there to flashbang him, from what I can tell. Alright, let's remove the sprint then. Let's put him a tad further away. What if he does not get disarmed in time? What if he acquires Zeke with Bodalk not being there in order to disarm him? What if he just stops moving, holds on sight, and then guns down Zeke? He doesn't even have to hold on sight necessarily, as you have seen. I didn't have him hold on sight. I just had Bodalk miss him by having the timing be a tad off. And that wasn't the guy being faster, that was the guy being a tad slower, choosing a slightly worse path, a more convoluted one. All of these considerations lead me to conclude that rushing out through that door is taking an unnecessary risk with Zeke's life. I might as well sprint out from the other side and then rendezvous with Denton and try to deal with this man from a different angle. Play it safe, not take unnecessary risks. Wait for Denton to toss out the flashbang, wait for Bodalk to possibly be in position to disarm the man, and then try to gun him down with Zeke. Let's see what happens. Where is that guy? He's over there! Over there, did not in any way, shape or form get disarmed or blinded. But he got acquired by my gunman, and he is at a tremendous disadvantage because he is a simple shotgunner. He just does not have the range to kill them. He does not. If you look at that yellow cone, that's his effective firing range. He just cannot kill them. It's not about a long time necessary for him to acquire them. He simply cannot do so. In order to be able to kill them, he would have to first close the distance. He cannot close that distance. He doesn't even have the time to close that distance. He could try, but in the time he takes to close the distance, he's going to get gunned down by Zeke and Bodalk in tandem. I'm commenting my round. Bodalk is just running behind them, and they are mercilessly gunning him down. Down he goes. That's the final ambusher. He's dead, which means I have completed the mission with no damage on my units, no casualties, quite quickly. I'm quite pleased with myself. I strive to have my team leave every mission safe, alive, with no damage on them whatsoever. And of course, getting all the bonus objectives done, that's what I like to see. Now let's view the replay, commentated from the very beginning. Let's rewind things all the way to round 1. I start out here with the 3 gunmen of mine. Here's Zeke with the sensor. Here's Bodalk with his disarming shot, and Denton with the flashbang. I have 3 enemies, 2 shotgunners on the left and on the right, and a single bomber in the top left corner. My mission objective is to eliminate all the ambushers. There will be 8 of them, supposed to do so in 15 rounds. I look out this window with Zeke, toss out a sensor, and fire off 2 shots at the shotgunner, wounding him severely. In the meantime, Bodalk disarms and guns down the other shotgunner, with Denton running out, witnessing the explosion, and taking position out in the courtyard. Zeke fires off shots blindly, attempting to hit the shotgunner as he crosses his path, his line of fire. That does not happen. Instead, the shotgunner positions himself inside the building immobile. However, he gets spotted by Bodalk and gunned down. The final shot goes off, killing him. One more bomber, one more shotgunner on the left side. The shotgunner gets blinded with a flashbang, and Denton finishes him off. The other shotgunner hides behind the wall in a blind spot for my team. One of the bombers remains immobile, the other bomber runs up to a window and lobs out an explosive. I am moving Bodalk and Denton in tandem together to try and acquire him. The explosive goes out, and thankfully only destroys some boxes. Since the enemy bomber was crouched down behind the window, Zeke does not require him. Zeke did acquire the enemy shotgunner, gunning him down through the window and the door. I pursue the bombers relentlessly, ruthlessly. I charge in there with all 3 of my gunmen, hoping the bombers do not choose to blow themselves up, and knowing that they've just lobbed their explosives, so it ought to be a reasonably safe move. One of the bombers gets gunned down. The other one I do miss. I run out there with Denton and fail to find him, at which point I turn around. I position my remaining gunmen in the 2 buildings. I put Zeke in the middle and Bodalk over there in the shed on the left side. Because I knew reinforcements were coming. 2 shotgunners have spawned. Bodalk acquires the shotgunner on the left, killing him. There was simply no cover for him to really get behind, there was no time for him to do much of anything, and he really had no range to shoot back, since he is a lowly shotgunner. Final target remaining. I try to position my troops in the safest way possible. I run around the long way outside the building with Zeke. Denton tosses out a flashbang, both of them acquire the shotgunner. Bodalk is on his way to them, but will never make it in time. Zeke and Denton fire off the shots at the poor shotgunner, who cannot return fire because he's too far away, out of his effective and possible firing range. He dies. By eliminating him, I complete the final objective. I had no casualties, completed the mission fewer than 15 rounds, with 3 or fewer units, namely with 3 of them, killed all 8 of the targets, and received no injuries on my men. That mission is now complete. New missions are available to me. 1 in Colonia and 1 in Wild Acres Ranch. I've also received an email from the cowboy. Subject: you're a dead man walking. Content: so you slipped the noose. Must be feeling like a real big shot. You're pathetic. Know that you're a fly, distracting but barely worth paying attention to. And now you're going to get swatted. I'm gonna see you in the ground and personally piss on your grave. Alright, I presume that is intended to be intimidating. However, I trust my men. I don't believe I'm in any real danger at this particular point. Or at any point, actually. The cowboy does not scare me. I take my time. I bide my time, trying to make the choice. Do I go for the Colonia mission or the Wild Acres Ranch mission? They're both the same type of mission. Check the Colonia one. Ooh, burn it down. Time to shut this place down. We've mapped out several buildings we need to destroy to finally render this stronghold inoperable. Surveillance shows fuel barrels being stored on site. Blow it up and burn it down. As you can see, in that type of mission has already suggested that we are going to destroy things, bomb things. We are to destroy 3 targets. What about the Wild Acres Ranch mission? Up in smoke. Hindenburg tells us the ranch is still capable of operating as a cookhouse. Time to cut the cowboy off for good. Send in a team and destroy the site. If we keep hitting him hard, the cowboy's going to have no choice but to run. Our mission here is to destroy the cookhouse. Once again, we are supposed to blow things up. Both of those missions are along the same lines. You're supposed to blow things up. Of course, the bonus objectives differ. The place differs, but ultimately, I hesitate to say that it's the same thing, because it's not quite the same thing. You blow up all sorts of different things. And here's my indecision. Comes to full view of the general public. I can't decide, do I want up in smoke or do I want burn it down? Ultimately, I decide to go with up in smoke. Drugs are bad, okay? Since I have no limitations on the team size, I might as well pick whomever I fancy. All 4 members that I desire. I probably could forego a bomber and just go with the usual composition of a single shotgunner, 2 gunmen, and a sniper, with the sniper of course being Seraphim, the gunmen of course being Bodalk and Denton, and the shotgunner being Dozer with his 4 hit points. Sounds like a reasonable composition to me. Of course, this is the sort of mission where we are supposed to blow things up, and in spite of the mission being the sort where you are supposed to blow things up, I still choose a team that doesn't quite blow things up. I choose a team without a bomber. Hilarious, isn't it? But I still go with that because this is my go-to team composition. The tough shotgunner who can survive a headshot from a sniper. A lot, really. My favorite sniper of all time, Seraphim, in all sorts of ways. Bodog, my favorite gunman of all time, with his lovely disarming shot. And of course, Denton with his amazing flashbang. Forget about the mission for a moment, though. Look at the chat. Have a gander at the chat. There's been no one around for the entire stream, frankly too common of an occurrence, but Diff decided to pop in, saying howdy. Is it me, or is there no sound in stream? Which when I go, oh, well, hold on, that's weird. What do you mean, that no sound? It said, oh my fucking god, oh shit, oh fuck! Nothing is being recorded. There's just nothing going on. Both of these are off. That's terrible. Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, if game sound was off by itself, that would have been bad. That would have been bad enough. But no, turns out my microphone audio also did not get recorded throughout this entire time. How long have I been going on for? What the hell am I going to do now? I have a recording with no sound whatsoever. All the audio devices have switched. I did not bother to check because this has never happened before. No game audio, no comment, all of that going down the drain, all of the things I've said going to complete goddamn waste. Nothing, just nothing remains. All of that going into the void. No trace of it remains, aside from my lips moving. Oh, god damn it. Hold on, the only solution I can see to all of that is to, well, save what's there. I will have my video recorded, that's cute, and I will have to restart the stream. Check the audio first, then ultimately restart the stream and go ahead with this mission. And that's what I did. Except that's an entirely different story. Thanks for watching, and you will see me elsewhere.